city planner in Pacific Grove, California, lifetime, and my roommate was a city planner engineer and a planner for the city of Clovis, just retired, and we roomed together for a semester, and we're high school buddies. So with an engineering background and kind of a photo type visual person, I feel that I jump in and have to get my feet wet really quick as far as, zoning for commercial, residential, however you want it.
Okay. And then the follow-up, second part, is to ask if you're willing and interested to participate in some training related to the Planning Commission. In particular, there's going to be some online courses made available by the League of Minnesota Cities to provide you some grounding in the principles of land use and the technical aspects of the law.
Well, having your first question answered, I'd say that would be a very good idea. I would appreciate it, as a matter of fact.
Thank you very much.
You partially answered this question already, so you just have to expand a little bit, and then I too have added a little bit to it. What training or experience do you have that would be beneficial if you are appointed to serve on this commission? And then I would like you to give your opinion to us on how you can make a difference because of that.
Well, certainly what I mentioned for in family background and friends, but I think the other part is having now, being this September, it will be 20 years that I've been a resident of Minnesota. I came from, of all places, California, and I was overwhelmed on October 31st of 1991, and I took my children to trick-or-treat. I said, what did I do? So if there's anything I could do in city and planning, I'd say, can we reduce the snow? But anyway, I think my engineering background and just the now that I have two children in college, I have a little more time to think philosophically. I've taken a little advantage to study the lives of George Washington, Jefferson, and kind of feel there's a little duty for me in my community. So I think just my first degree was an associate degree as a draftsman. I was designing integrated circuits in Silicon Valley when they were in their very early stages, and I wanted an engineering degree, so I pursued that. I think those backgrounds will help me, and especially with additional training, I think I could be a good asset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is your understanding of the role of the Planning Commission as it relates to the City Council? And the Planning Commission meetings, they'll usually have a representative come to the council meetings to represent and discuss the Planning Commission's recommendations. So if they happen to put you in that situation, you'd have to go to 2 meetings a month.
Would that be on a regular basis? Or would we rotate between the 9 of us?
Rotates.
Well, I know our meetings are, the Planning Commission is Tuesday, first and third of the month, the first and third Tuesdays. And when are the Planning Commission meetings?
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth. And issues, I could probably make them all, barring some changes. The only conflicting thing that I have is I volunteer at the Family History Library at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints one night a week, or one night a month, and that's flexible because they have 4 nights that they're open, so I can probably work around those.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have the long question here. You might want to get a pencil off for this. The city has 7 other advisory committees that provide input to the City Council. Why do you feel that you are most suited to serving on the Planning Commission rather than one of the others? There are the Community Design Review Board, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission, Historical Preservation Commission. That's Heritage now, isn't it? The Parks and Recreation Commission, the Business and Economic Development Commission, and the Police Civil Service Commission. So I guess the basic question is, why do you feel you're more suited to serve on the Planning Commission than any of those other commissions?
Well, I think my interest was sparked when I just came across a website and noticed that these commissions were open. I didn't even look at all 7 or more of those that you've listed, and I thought to myself, this is the time to be a participant, and I didn't review any of those, majority of those others. in detail. I think the Planning Commission was open. I think the police officer was open, even though my son is training in Special Forces. I thought, no, I'll let him do that. And I'll stay on something more civil and civic, I mean. And so I didn't really have an opportunity to study. I didn't realize there were that many commissions available.
Thank you. You know, I think that when I first got started, we had like 3 or 4, and we get lots and lots of advice on every question nowadays.
Well, one thing I've noticed in society is you can get overburdened with the
certainly we are
workload.
not overburdened.
I wouldn't want to pick more than one.
I think it's actually a very nice situation having people that you know are going to offer their opinions. And so I think the other part of Mr. Anton's question that he asked was that there are indeed a number of different commissions, and so you should continue to look if this round doesn't work out.
Sure.
I mean, I very much value having people who are just wanting to serve their community have that opportunity. So,
Thank you.
So then the question that I have for you is how would you react if you felt strongly about what the Planning Commission should be recommending to the City Council, but you were in the minority, or perhaps the only member who opposed the views of the rest of the body? And so what would your kind of reaction, or how would that situation make you feel?
Like I'm the underdog. I think, though, if you're an individual of principle and you believe firmly in the commitment that you've made of whatever the issue might be, I would stand on my principle. I would try to, extremely weigh the views of the others who've made their recommendations, and like I mentioned, in studying the founding fathers, there's a great lesson to be learned in compromise, and I would definitely have to entertain that thought very heavily, because those points of view can be changed to make improvements. But I believe standing on principle is an important part of making decisions.
Let me just expand on that a little bit.
Sure.
In that the Planning Commission, as all commissions, are advisory to the council, and so you could come to us with a united front from the Planning Commission and say all members strongly feel that this is the way to go, and we promptly say, well, I don't think so, and do something else. And so what do you think about that?
Well, I've heard that from my cousin in Pacific Grove, and that's the way it stands. They are the elected body to make those final decisions, and we are, as you say, an advisory committee.
All right. I think that, I don't know the exact percentage, but at least 90+% of the time that we tend to do what the commissions recommend. But sometimes we modify,
Sure.
and sometimes we just outright disagree, but I think in most cases we tend to think the same. So
I think it's also fair to observe that sometimes when something comes to the City Council, it's gone through additional levels of review, and there may, for example, be a legal opinion in from the City Attorney that had not been available when the Planning Commission was considering an item.
Sure.
And so sometimes additional information comes to us compared to what the Planning Commission had a few weeks earlier.
So, those are the 5 set questions. We've had a couple of follow-ups in there. Anyone have anything else they want to ask about? You have anything you want to ask us?
Well, I guess something that comes to mind on sort of the education of it, when you're given some opportunity to either modify existing zoning locations, I don't know what the timeline is when you have it on your agenda to actually making a decision. Are there opportunities for, like in my mind, I would think it would be nice to make a drive-by even to kind of make a mental and a visit in my mind of what's around the neighborhood. You can see it on the map, but sometimes a drive-through, at least for me, would be helpful. But I don't know how quickly you guys move.
Well, usually the process that you are describing is what I think is kind of anticipated the commissioners will do. you, as a commissioner, would receive a packet of information, which you would receive probably on, if you're meeting on a Monday, for example, you'd get it probably the Wednesday evening, at the latest Thursday evening before, so you'd have through the weekend to give you an opportunity to do that drive-by. And so even though we have a little bit of an odd-shaped city,
Yeah.
usually you can manage to drive by something and get a look at it. There's, I think, a huge advantage now, actually, that over 20 years ago, in that with like Google Earth and whatnot, you can also get a great feeling of how
you
something
can.
sits in the community by getting a look at those satellite shots.
That's true.
And but the drive-by, you can't beat that. Even if you do the little thing where you go down to ground level and turn 360, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, still better to be there. And
Yeah.
so you usually get that, like I'm going to say, about 4 days or so beforehand to get your packet and be able to review it. And if you have questions, call the staff and ask them and that type of thing.
I guess the question that comes to mind is, would I come by sometime during the week? Is there a box that I'm going to find this packet? I never even thought of that. But
They're
try and
brought-
stay ahead of the game?
They're brought to you.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marv is going to drive them around personally.
From what I've seen, the planning commission members get them by mail,
Okay.
typically. Is that correct? Yeah.
Okay.
And also, they're available on the city's website as well, so the whole public has access to the same information that's given to you.
Okay. That's all that
Anything
comes to
else?
mind. That's all that's come to my mind right now.
All right. Well, we want to certainly thank you for sharing your time and your
Thank you.
insights and whatnot tonight. And I guess, let's see, we're still talking Planning Commission, so we wouldn't be announcing what's going on until December 13th.
Correct.
But as Mr. Nephew observed, that information would be available in our packet online about a week before that.
Okay.
And so, we'll get things turned around as quickly as we can.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Drive carefully on your way home.
Are you ready for Mr. Meehan, or did you want a minute?
Just one sec, Mr. Mayor. I got a text message from Jim. He's driving back from Duluth, he says, and the going is very, very slow, so he doesn't think he's going to make it at all in time.
All right.
And he said
You'll have to stay all night then.
he'd sent an email to you guys, but he wasn't sure that you were, checking it.
Let's see. Okay, so. All right, so now we're switching gears a little bit, and so Police Civil Service Commission. Now, we did interview Jim prior, didn't we?
Yeah.
But so we
Human
hadn't,
Relations Committee.
we hadn't combined interviews yet at that
We
point.
had not. That was a fully separate process. I think Ms. Burkholz might have been interviewed for that as well.
Well, not this time around.
Okay.
And so the question then is, are we, actually, the first question is what I did with the old questions, but are we reverting then? No? I mean, we had some of
No.
those general questions and stuff before.
He was just during the Human Relations Commission when I was not present at any of those interviews. So I think we just want to,
Treat him like a different guy. I don't know.
Okay, and actually, the police civil service ones. Got 5 questions.
For the new ones.
Okay, so we're doing the new ones.
Yep.
Okay. We're ready then, I guess. Well, and actually, I just thought of what I was thinking of, isn't that he has, of course, checked off not only this and what we interviewed him